You hear about the line item veto, but you may not know how powerful it really could be. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. Ken Block returns to the broadcast today. You're thinking, well, can't we just forget about Ken Block? He lost. He lost in the primary. Yeah, but you know what? Before Ken Block ran the second time, he was instrumental, not singularly, but primarily, and certainly a big player, in getting rid of the master lever. And it was a tremendous civic effort on his part. Well, he's embarked upon another one. This may not be as common ground understood, but it is oh so important, and every governor should want it, and most governors have it. It's called the line item veto. I'll explain it. Ken will explain it tonight, and hopefully you'll engage the conversation publicly because it's an important one. It is a pleasure to have you aboard. I guess we're getting a little snowfall as we speak. Gee, what a surprise. Virginia, there will be a spring. To the rundown. Yes, very tricky stuff. And this one is one of the most unique press releases I've seen in a long time. You'll get it when I hit on it. Business as usual? Yeah, sort of. Next item, mending fences? Yeah, kinda. And it sometimes I have more to say about these things in the rundown, and sometimes I space out. It ain't about race, and it isn't with the Chicago Little League, that is for sure. And your state of mind is important to me. You know, it's so funny. I write these things, but sometimes, just full disclosure, because we have an honest relationship here. That's what this show is about. It's my radio show and WPRO is about. Sometimes I go, I'm not sure, but I'll catch up because I write these things. Anyway, Congress Smalls authorization. I wrote this thing, and that's exactly what they're doing. The Washington Post wrote their headline right here. Obama sends Congress draft war authorization. Actually, we missed a plural there. That's all right. That's my proofreading. Anyway, you get the point. And CBS talks about what happened yesterday.
Our coalition is on the offensive. ISIL is on the defensive, and ISIL is going to lose.
President Obama consulted with leaders in both parties to craft a resolution that authorizes military operations against ISIS for 3 years and allows for the use of ground troops in limited circumstances. Still, some Democrats worried that leaving the door open to even limited ground operations could put thousands of troops in harm's way. Republicans, on the other hand, argued the president could be tying his own hands by ruling out enduring offensive ground combat operations.
And that's really kind of what marks this presidency, kind of a drive through the middle, trying to navigate the polar opposites of the arguments, right? The Democrats worry it's too much. The Republicans worry it's too little. And somehow this president tries to carve his way through the middle. You'd say that's diplomacy and compromise. Others would say it's rudderless leadership. We shall see. Coming home, this was one of the strangest things I've seen in a while. First of all, here's the headline that reflects the leader of the MBTA, who just had enough under a lot of pressure. Remember, we played this yesterday, Dr. Beverly Scott explaining how archaic the MBTA system really is.
When we talk about things like the switches and the signals, you are talking, I don't have any buttons I can push. You are talking about people literally out there with pickaxes, shovels, and propane tanks that are getting those old switches, just like in the old railroad movies you see, that are actually making those switches get from being de-iced.
I think you can see how dynamic she is and how her dynamics have really carried her, along with her expertise, you know, through the transportation world for a lengthy period of time. Remember, she was the person who ran RIPTA here in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Public Transit Authority, the buses. Which leads me to the next thing. Look at this press release headline that I got. This is from State Representative Ray Hull, who publicly announced that he's written a letter to the governor urging the governor to hire Dr. Scott now that she's available in a couple of months when her notice runs out, leaving the MBTA. Now, in case you're scoring at home, we have a guy by the name of Ray Studley, who is the Deputy Superintendent of the Rhode Island State Police, who's running RIPTA and reportedly pretty efficiently these days, but that didn't preclude Representative Hull from speaking out and declaring that she ought to be hired immediately. He spoke to me on the radio today.
Fascinating woman. and she has a passion for transportation, much like I've seen in officers that have a passion for police work. And she's all transportation, much like all I am a cop. She was of a caliber that I haven't seen in Ripta in a long time.
They're very strange. You know, I asked him, don't you feel strange, soliciting somebody for a job that's being performed pretty well? He said, no, not really. Do you have any metrics by which you could gauge that she would do a better job for Ripta than what's being done now? No, not really, other than how dynamic she is. She was so dynamic in Atlanta, the job she had before the MBTA and well after the PVTA, I'm sorry, the RIPTA. Actually, there's a lot of transit authorities. PVTA is back in Western Mass. That's an old thought. She didn't work there. Anyway, in Atlanta, she was making $150,000 more a year than she was making in Massachusetts, but she skipped out of there when they did a psychological management review of her operation, some suggesting that she was too tough on people. I would imagine that you could see that some of the one-on-ones could be pretty dynamic, since she expressed some of that in her latest press conference. Anyway, I don't think we're hiring her all too soon, Representative Hull, but keep trying, I guess. Business as usual? Yes, it's Joe Almeida back at work, and this is not the way to handle it. The headline here with the picture of Joe coming back into the chambers, this is the state rep who's been jammed up now with a misappropriation charge, translation, theft of his own campaign funds for personal use, some $6,000 plus, handcuffs 2 days ago, state police arrest. Eyewitness News looked for some answers.
State Representative Joseph Almeida had little to say to Eyewitness News about his arrest Tuesday over campaign finances.
I'm going to give you, because that's my statement, and that's as far as I go with you.
No further comment regarding the
Right
controversy
there.
with the campaign
Right
finance?
there. Right there. Right there.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say to your constituents?
Right there.
That's Channel 12. Anything you want to say to your constituents?
Right here.
Okay. People who support you?
Right here.
All right, that's what a reporter's got to do. The right here, by the way, is a statement that says, as I move forward, my focus will be on representing the hardworking people of my district. I respect the legal process and I maintain my innocence as this matter is adjudicated in court. Out of respect for that process, I'll have no further comment at this time. Respect for that process, you don't need to respect the process, Joe. It's your representation to the people. If you cannot talk to the public through the press about the charges against you, then you obviously have a problem bigger than what's just right here. You should hire a crisis manager, Joe. It'd be a good thing for you to do. Mending fences, that's really the theme behind the story. Target 12 and Tim White kind of have this thing figured out in Cranston. You know the old parking ticket scandal? Well, it ain't over yet.
Captain Stephen Antonucci is facing 7 violations of Cranston Police Department code. Antonucci, a former union president, is accused of ordering a parking ticket blitz on the wards of 2 city councilmen who opposed a union contract. Last spring, Mayor Alan Fung, who was running for governor at the time, called for Antonucci's termination in the wake of a state police probe.
Captain Antonucci ordered patrolmen to step up the issuing of parking tickets on the morning after the city council's vote against the proposed police contract.
Antonucci is not facing any criminal charges, but the move to fire him triggered a complicated state law called the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. Antonucci went to the courts looking to have the disciplinary charges dismissed, arguing the state police, ordered in by Fung, illegally conducted an investigation that led to the charges. He also claimed the panel that presides over the Bill of Rights hearing was unfairly assembled because 2 of the 3 members are from the state police. Superior Court Justice Alice Gibney disagreed. Now, 3 things can happen. The Bill of Rights hearing can move forward, or Antonucci can appeal the decision to the Supreme Court, or the city and Antonucci can come to a settlement agreement. Sources tell Target 12 Fung and Antonucci were in discussions that would have brought Antonucci back to the force.
You know, Tim's good work. Again, here's a thing. Antonucci and Fung were very close. Antonucci raised a lot of money for Fung, even during contract negotiations, which was a conflict of interest, I think, for Fung. Fung would like nothing better than to put this thing back with Antonucci. And so, believe me, he hides behind the Bill of Rights process. It's really the politics he's hiding behind. And nobody should be fooled about that. All right, it ain't about race. This is disgraceful. CBSNews.com, here's the headline. And here's a CBS piece on this. What they're doing in terms of life lesson for these kids is just pathetic.
Civil rights leaders called the JRW probe a race-based witch hunt. The punishment too severe, they said, for rules parents never even knew.
I, as a mother, had no idea that there were boundaries and that there were rules beyond living in the city of Chicago. We live in the city of Chicago.
But some JRW players apparently don't. Players already feeling the heat.
Some of the youth have been harassed in school already today because they were told that they were frauds.
Well, listen, you know, it's a tough life lesson, but it has nothing to do with race, which has been what's insinuated by a lot of the civil rights activists, including the Reverend Jesse Jackson there. There are rules that govern Little League when it comes to eligibility of players. They were violated. They were turned in by a competitive league in Chicago. And the lesson to the kids is, yeah, you had a great run. But the truth is, you may have been stocked a little bit more than most teams are based on your geographic reach. And guess what, guys? Nice experience, but they take the title away when somebody cheats. Unfortunately, the adults cheated. Sorry you have to live with that, as opposed to you're a national champion anyway. That's a bad lesson for these kids. All right, your state of mind. 228-1886 is the number when you dial us and leave us a voicemail or Facebook post or tweet. Your pleasure. Here's a Facebook post. Is this the first time a president has gone through Congress to go to war? Seems like the past few Congresses were sidestepped. Actually, the multiple Congresses. It's been since 1942 that we had an official declaration of war by Congress. Since then, from the Korean War on up, it's been a hybrid, sometimes heavy hybrid, sometimes not so heavy hybrid. This last attempt by the president is minor league when it comes to authorization, but we haven't really done it formally in all that time. All righty, Ken Block, line item veto, next. Stay with us. Yeah, so the master lever was accomplished, delayed, but accomplished. And here's the next challenge. The headline reads, so they do. Well, we'll see how many do and how many get it. Ken Block, former gubernatorial candidate, former moderate party developer. What else? What else? Master lever advocate.
Man about town.
Now with the goatee, kind of hanging loose. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Dan.
You know, I kind of mentioned, Ed lived at the top of the show. You know, this guy, Ken Block, he lost. I got to give you credit. You're pounding away at issues that matter to you, which tells me, win or lose, that your candidacy was real. That,
oh, yeah.
That it, well,
oh, yeah.
In terms of your own financial expense, no doubt. But I'm saying authenticity is important when people are evaluating candidates. And I think whether this is a continuation for you in your next run, if you should do that, whatever, you have picked and have worked hard on things that are public policy problems.
Yes.
So your work on the master lever, which is now eliminated for our next election in 2016, you know what that is, folks, right? You know, when you draw the line, there's no lever anymore because we don't have the machine, but you draw the line, the master line, just for a party, and all those party people get your vote. That's gone. The next line item veto thing, do you think it's a bigger or smaller challenge?
You know, I think it's a little bit harder for people to put their heads around it, right? With the master lever, I think as a concept, it's a little bit easier to understand.
Well, it's their action.
Yeah.
It's their thing.
Right.
Right.
The light item veto, I think, has a bigger overall impact because of the ability for the governor to go through a budget line by line and eliminate the lines that don't look right to the governor or that the governor understands is just a special interest sponsored thing. And maybe we need to even roll this conversation back a little bit. Rhode Island's budget process is broken, right? The way the budget process works is that the governor proposes a budget, throws it over the fence to the General Assembly, who then can do anything to that budget they want, including ignoring it completely, rewriting their own one. And then when the General Assembly is done with that budget, they hand it back to the governor and basically say, approve it, or you can veto it and we're basically going to override you, because that's the way it just goes these days.
Well, this is a great discussion, and you're right, we should have rolled it back to place one. The threat of overriding is only in place because of the imbalance of party representation generally.
Correct.
All right? There's so many Democrats who have to fall in line with the Speaker of the House and the Senate President that the numbers are there to kind of figuratively flip the bird to the governor.
Correct.
Okay.
So what the light item veto does, and what 44 other governors in our country have the power of the light item veto to do, is to go through the General Assembly finalized budget and take specific things and hack them out and force the General Assembly to go back and reaffirm each one of them in a separate vote, which puts accountability on the shoulders of the lawmakers, and you stand a chance of taking bad things out of the budget. We don't have that check and balance. We desperately need it in the face of multi-hundred-million-dollar budget deficits. We need the ability for somebody to go through the budget and begin to make smart cuts, and our General Assembly has proven incapable of doing it. Hopefully, the governor's office has the ability to help drive the conversation and make these cuts, but we need a professional check and a balance on our budget. We don't have it.
I think we got to be careful not to just put this in the context of cuts. Certainly, everything in a budget has a monetary assessment to it, but there may be a strategy of subtract from here and add from here. What you're doing is increasing the power of the executive branch of government.
Correct.
And discretion. Most likely we are talking about cuts, but heck, a governor may say, well, there's $1 million for that or $20 million for that. Actually, I'd like to put $25 million in there. I put it in, you took it out, I want it back. That debate through the line item veto is non-existent in our state.
It forces compromise, where right now we don't have any. And compromise is a good thing.
Yeah, so recall, most states have it.
44 out of 50.
That would be most.
That's most.
And here we are, dragging along, singing a song behind the times.
Very much behind the times.
And the obvious answer to the question, why do you think that is?
Well, it's an obscure topic. It's a hard one to talk about in public. All these issues.
It's not hard.
I mean, it is. You're go through a grocery store and try and get someone to engage in a conversation about the light item veto.
Anything that has to do with civics or government these days, but your point's well taken.
Look, when you have a problem like this, problem like the master levy, you need a champion of the cause. I took on that role because I'm particularly good at being able to drive the conversation, use social media, use my communication skills to make it an issue, to educate the public about it, and to get people to care about it. I mean, in a week and a half, we've had 750 people come to the website, lightitemveto.org, and send a petition to the General Assembly saying we would like our governor to have this power. That's a lot of people engaging on an issue that is fairly obscure.
It seems to me there would be really one really important signature on that petition. We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. You didn't catch that. That's all right. That wasn't a topic anyway. Did we put up the information on the website? There you go, lineitemveto.org. Ken says during the break to me, he says, well, we'll see what the Dan York State of Mind bump is for people who are signing up on lineitemveto.org. I would urge you to sign up. This is such a necessary tool, and we are so far behind the times. Here's the signature that I think needs to be on that petition. You may have heard of her, Gina Raimondo.
Indeed.
The governor.
Indeed.
What are you doing to get that accomplished?
So the way, with my sample of one, the way these things tend to work is the first step is to get a good, strong public push behind you, and then you begin confronting your elected leaders and asking them for the support on it. And you use the support of the people to convince them that it's important that there is public support for the issue and that they have to take the issue seriously.
Well, I would think that's appropriate for everybody other than the governor. Any governor who's running the state effectively needs that or wants to run it effectively. So I don't care if nobody signs your petition, she should want it. But
I've got to believe that the governor would very, very much like to have this power. We'll take that conversation to the governor and ask her for her support, probably in the not too distant future.
Have you had a chance to commiserate with Gina Raimondo since the general election at all, and say hello? Or
we've had a very brief hello so far. I understand how hectic it must be for her right now, and hopefully we'll have some more in-depth conversations.
You wanted it to be that hectic for you. It didn't work out, but I still think that you could play a significant role in framing some of the important debate. And at least at the early onset of a gubernatorial tenure, the campaign politics are out of it in kind of a semi-distant memory.
Right.
And they don't kick back in, at least for a while. The honeymoon period is not just for feel-good, it's for getting things done on a non- or a-partisan basis, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so what's your projection? What do you think, how long do you think it'd take to climb this mountain? Which shouldn't be a big mountain to climb, but...
I would love to see this. So you have to get the light item veto, you have to have a constitutional amendment. I would love to see the question on the 2016 ballot to amend the Constitution to give the governor this power. I think we can get there. I mean, the response has been very strong from the public so far, and we just started.
You know what's amazing?
It's coming.
If we were Massachusetts, you could drive this through initiative petition.
Yeah.
You could put these petitions signed, could actually demand and drive a question on the ballot direct to the people. We don't have that here in Rhode Island. A couple of votes by the General Assembly put it on. Actually, they can change the Constitution themselves, the General Assembly can, or they can vote once to put it on the ballot, correct?
Right.
That's probably the best you're going to get.
Yeah.
But it would win.
I think it will win. I really do.
What's the argument against it? Once it's explained, people go, oh, yeah, well, why not?
Yeah. I haven't heard a good argument against it. I don't expect to.
It would be a circus watching the argument against it. When you
Yes.
get hearings on it, it'll be funny to see anybody have a logical reason not to have it.
That's why I'm fairly confident we'll get it. Like with the master lever, nobody had a good argument on why we should keep the master lever. Nobody. And nobody can tell us, in the face of 44 other states using a light item veto, that nobody can with a straight face say 44 other states have it wrong, Rhode Island's got it right.
Any thought on this week's news? State Representative Joe Almeida is jammed up. You were saying something to me prior to the show. He got a big master lever vote, didn't he?
He has over 60% of his vote comes from the master lever. Shocking. If we making a dangerous statement, assuming that he has done something wrong and ends up not running again, I'll be disappointed, because I was very much looking forward to seeing what happened to his vote totals without the master lever.
All right. Lineitemveto.org.
Show me that Dan York bump.
Yeah. I've never felt such pressure before. I feel like it's a telethon. Please contribute now. But seriously, if you want your quality of life in Rhode Island to improve, and you want a little bit more balance between the dreaded General Assembly and whoever governor you elect, whether it's Republican or Democrat, this is a no-brainer.
Right. The Senate bill to put the question on the ballot, or to put the constitutional amendment on the ballot, is a bipartisan bill. Senator O'Neill, an independent, submitted it, and 4 Democrats co-sponsored it. So, I mean, it's starting off very, very positively.
All right. Well, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Dan.
And your advocacy. Lineitemveto.org. Sign up. I wouldn't want there to be no Dan York state of mind bump effect. Thanks for joining us, Ken.
Thanks, Dan.
One more thing when we come back. Stay with us. Well, the sad news is that Jess still has to pay her student loans. The $12,000 I was going to give her as part of my $543 million Powerball victory, I couldn't even match a number. I feel like a personal failure. I had a lot on my plate. I got lineitemveto.org tonight. I got Jess's payoff. I'll have to buy another lottery ticket. Okay, tomorrow night, State Representative Doreen Costa introducing an important bill on sex trafficking. Not a sexy issue, but an important one. I'll see you on the radio tomorrow at noon on WPRO. Until then, brave the snow.